A lot of people ask me when they meet me in person, or friends, or people not immediately connected to politics, do you really think Donald Trump is that much of a danger? Do you really think Donald Trump is mentally unstable? And the answer is obviously yes. The answer is so self-evident when you watch him, when you hear him, when you listen to him. He is clearly diminished. He is an unhinged character in the pantheon of unhinged characters that exist in the history of the United States. And right now he is speaking. As I am speaking, he is still delivering an address to Republicans in Congress who are but subjects to their king. It is remarkable to me the lack of dignity, the lack of shame, the lack of self-respect that exists or does not exist in Republican circles among the elected officials. Let's start with this. This is Donald Trump. It's just a rambling nonsense speech. I don't even know if there's a teleprompter. It's just him, old grandpa, telling his tales. And in this first clip, it's him telling members of Congress, his colleagues, that he's so much smarter than them, that if they were as smart as him, they'd be standing where he is and not where they are.
But they say that when you win the presidency, you lose the midterm. So you're all brilliant people. Most of you are in this business longer than me. That makes me smarter than you, because look where I am, right? No, it doesn't. But I wish you could explain to me what the hell's going on with the mind of the public, because we have the right policy. They don't. They have horrible policy. They do stick together. They're violent. They're vicious. They're vicious people.
And they sit there and they will applaud him. They will add, oh, dear leader, thank you for the insults. It's the same narrative that the White House wants the American people to believe, that the press should be thankful that Donald Trump calls them piggies, tells them to shut their mouths, little piggies. And the Republicans, they are the little piggies that Donald Trump wants, that he desperately needs to surround him to inflate his self-esteem when he's feeling bad about himself. And that, I just segued myself here, that is exactly what he is, a weak coward, a physical weakling, a mental weakling, an emotional weakling. And it came out when he's talking about Nicolas Maduro, the now kidnapped, indicted, soon to be prosecuted, former president of Venezuela. Again, bad guy, deserves all the bad shit that's coming to him. I'm no Nicolas Maduro ally or supporter, and I'm not going to sing his praises or act like he didn't get what he deserved. It's the manner with which he got it that we have a problem with. But here's Donald Trump just laying bare the fact that he's a coward and a weakling, that is predicating some of what happened to Nicolas Maduro on the fact that Nicolas Maduro made fun of his jerk-off dance.
And, he's a violent guy. He gets up there and he tries to imitate my dance a little bit. But he's a violent guy.
That's weakness. From the President of the United States of America. The President of the United States of America. This isn't the dude that works at the pharmacy down the street. This is the president who seeks a third term, who wants these people to begin a movement to amend the Constitution of the United States to allow him to run for a third term. This has all kinds of implications for other Republicans who might want to run to be president themselves. But Donald Trump, the almost 80-year-old failing health douche who can't stay awake during any single meeting in the middle of the day, he wants to be president again. I will contend again. I will maintain. I do not believe he will make it through this year. I believe we will wake up one day and it'll be, oh shit, Donald Trump died in his sleep, and we can all take to the streets and celebrate. But in the meantime, we have to contend with this as he attempts to alter our Constitution to run again.
In other words, I could have the most unbelievable 4 years, and I guess I'm not allowed to run. I'm not sure. little something out there that I'm not allowed to run. But let's assume I was allowed to run. I could have, there's going to be a constitutional movement. No, I could have the most unbelievable 4 years. Everything was great, but in the last week, I made a little slip up in something, and you lose the election. It's like, so we can't let them forget that we did such a great job on the border.
And it is because of this that he believes. I mean, this explains it away, that he feels like he is a king. The king. It's why we have protests. No kings. And he said as much. He slipped. He says the words, "I'm the king," when talking about how many Boeing planes he sold. I didn't know he works at a Boeing dealership selling Boeing planes as president of the United States, but apparently he wants that moniker, the king of Boeing aircraft sales.
The big problem with it. I'm the king. I have sold more Boeings than any human being on earth. They gave me an award, Salesman of the Year. I said, what about Salesman of the in the history of Boeing? I've sold more Boeing planes than any man in history by far, probably over 1,000. Over 1,000 planes. I said, that's the good news. But why should they wait 3-4 years to get a plane? They should build them, get them immediately.
Now, look, I don't know that this is by accident. I think this is probably by design, that Donald Trump does think this way. He does not think of the larger picture of what it looks like, what kind of message it sends for a president of the United States, a democratically elected individual, to declare themselves a king. And we've seen this time and time and time again with Donald Trump putting up pictures of himself on fake Time magazine covers with a crown on, calling himself a king, acting as though he is a king, ruling as though he is a king. He does not govern. He thinks he rules. And he's given a speech now to Republicans who have abdicated their role as a co-equal branch of government. Every single one of those individuals in that room is equal to Donald Trump by constitutional mandate, by edict, by design from our founders. And they bend the knee. They just bend over and let Donald Trump do whatever to them that he so desires. We are ruled by cowards, by weaklings, by men who act like they are masculine, strong, traditionally, and they're Donald Trump included. Weak dipshits, every single one of them. Unfortunately, we are in a situation where elected Democrats haven't yet found the tone and tenor that they want to communicate to the American people how they will fight this. It's a sad state of affairs when people in my position are working harder than Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who just fire off emails and tweets about how concerned they are. I have no power other than the microphone and the camera in front of which I sit. I don't have the ability to propose legislation, to bring lawsuits against this administration, to stop it in its tracks, to at the very least slow it. I don't have that power. You don't have that power. We have the power to elect people who have that power. But we've got a maniac right now, a mentally ill lunatic who claims himself to be a king, who justifies the arrest of leaders of foreign countries because they made fun of his dance, where he mimics jerking multiple dudes off at one time. They're arresting protesters in the streets for lodging their displeasure with what's taking place in our country. They are arresting protesters and citizens of the country and migrants in this nation. They are kidnapping them with a masked police force on the anniversary of January 6th, the day that Donald Trump attempted to overthrow the United States government by way of overturning a free and fair and settled American election. The insurrectionist party is now in control, and we have a minority party, not an opposition party. I'm going to end it there. More to come. He's still talking. We will see. I love and appreciate you very much. Sound off in the comments.
The president has been clear for months now. Greenland should be part of the United States. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland?
So while Donald Trump right now is speaking to Congress, the plans to begin World War III are underfoot. And there's really no other way to explain the now policy choices being made by this administration without the consult of Congress, without reliance upon the war powers that Congress has, the sole power that the Constitution grants the Congress to declare war. Donald Trump is just riding roughshod over the Constitution because he believes himself to be a king. King of Boeing aircraft sales, apparently. Donald Trump's emissary, the ghoulish white supremacist, Stephen Miller, was on with Jake Tapper last night and refused to rule out military attack of Greenland/Denmark in order that Greenland becomes a new territory or colony of these United States. It's an easy question that's asked. It's, can you rule out that the U.S. is, as ever, going to try to take Greenland by force? Can you rule it out that the United States is going to do that? It should be, oh, yeah, we're not talking about military action here. We're not talking about invading Denmark, invading Greenland and booting out the governing forces, the people who actually run Greenland. We're not talking about that. It's easy to answer that. But in this entire clip, he never gets to that. In fact, this is just a ridiculous assertion. I can't believe you would even ask that question. Well, if it's that easy, if it's so ridiculous, then you should be able to answer it. Should you not? You Q-tip with ears? Should you not? Watch this.
Important topic. The premier of Greenland and the premier of Denmark and other Danish officials are responding to a Twitter post from your wife, Katie Miller, herself a former Trump White House official, showing Greenland covered with an American flag, saying soon. After that was posted, President Trump repeated the claim that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons. The Danish prime minister responded to this in an interview earlier today, as reported by Bloomberg, quote, "I believe one should take the American president seriously when he says it wants Greenland, but I will also make it clear that if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, including NATO, and thus the security that has been established since the end of the Second World War." Can you rule out that the U.S. is ever going to try to take Greenland by force?
Well, let me go back a step. The president has been clear for months now, so I know you're treating this as breaking news. The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus. The United
Right,
States,
but your wife posted that like hours after the Venezuela operation.
No, but
that's why it's newly relevant.
No, I'm not, and I'll talk with you about it for an hour. I think it's a really important conversation. I just wanted to reset, Jake, by making clear that it has been the formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm just trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out. The United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
One last question,
doesn't
Stephen.
make any sense.
The question gets asked. He said, well, let me take a few steps back in order to filibuster the time because it is limited since this is a 1-hour program. And I know that if I filibuster long enough, I will drag it out long enough that I won't actually have to give you an answer. That's ultimately what he did. But then when pressed, but can you say the military action against Greenland is off the table? All of this is very telling. See, the Trump administration isn't willing to explicitly say, yeah, military action is off the table because it's not off the table. They are willing to use the United States military to attack a peaceful ally. He says it would not be military action against Greenland, which means it wouldn't be against Greenland. It would be against Denmark. The real question is, Stephen Miller says, but what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony to Denmark? What's our basis for control of Greenland? What's our basis for territorial control? What's our basis? The fact that it's in our hemisphere? The fact that, well, we may have had boats there too, They tell on themselves in their reluctance to answer the questions. And then this finally will end here. The United States, from Stephen Miller, you just heard it, the United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in context of blah, blah, blah. No, just obey. You are subjects to the crown, the kingship of Donald Trump. Do not question, just obey. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland. It doesn't make any sense, he says. And that might be true. In fact, it probably is true. And this is the problem with putting a megalomaniac in charge like Donald Trump. Because the United States military, much to global chagrin, is the most mighty, powerful military on the face of the earth, possibly the most powerful military relative to others that has ever existed in the history of planet Earth. So when you put a jackass, a mentally unstable maniac in charge like Donald Trump, there are consequences to that. And when we see a military that doesn't seem to have any questions about the actions they're being commanded to do, it raises larger, important questions. All of the media is tripping all over themselves. Elected Democrats are tripping all over themselves to say, oh, but the military, we love and we're proud of them. We respect them. When is that going to stop? At one point, are we going to start asking questions about where the loyalties lie of the current military under Donald Trump? When they are conducting missions in support of the DOJ, what Department of Justice officials were at the invasion of Venezuela? None of these questions are being answered. We are in a very dangerous spot that could actually start a global conflict, World War III, from the same man who said he would he would stop it. World War III would have started, but thankfully I became president and stopped it. And we have absolute psychopaths, people who are just, their entire brainstem is just infected with sociopathy, like Stephen Miller, who are the tip of the spear for Donald Trump, the man to enact Donald Trump's worst instincts. Nazis. Every single one. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. And you can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054, or email me daily at dollemore.com.
Crimes both here in the U.S. and against people in Venezuela.
And now right here, we're showing you video we have immediately after the interview finished. Plickta was arrested by 2 Grand Rapids police officers. You can see it in the video.
It says something that I continuously have to repeat the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America in order to explain what follows in a clip. That I must remind Americans that you have the right to free speech. You have the right to peaceably assemble, to redress your government of your grievances. You have a fundamental, sacred, hallowed right. Our founders saw fit to enshrine this protection of this natural right. The Constitution does not provide you. You don't have the freedom of speech because of the Constitution. Your freedom of speech, which is a natural right, is protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution, which reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble or to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's the First Amendment. It is simple, simply stated. It is a concept that is rooted in our law. So it should be alarming to all of us when we witness a young woman who just protested against Donald Trump's illegal, unconstitutional, violating international law, invasion and kidnapping of a leader in Venezuela. And that's exactly what took place in the under the hands of these fascists in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who arrested Jessica Plitzka. It's not mid-interview. I want to say it's during the interview, but as she explains it, as soon as the red light turned off on the camera, the cops swarm in, tell her to put her hands over her head like she's some kind of a threat. This sweet little young girl, this activist, like she's a threat to them. They showed it both in uniform, the same beard. It must be standard issue for the Grand Rapids Police Department. And they are arresting her because she had just protested against Donald Trump. How dare you speak against the king? You cannot say that he is doing something wrong. Oh, and what's the charge? Oh, she stepped into the street, apparently. Make fucking sense. Watch this.
Protesters on hand this afternoon. It was organized by the group Grand Rapids Opponents of War. Many brought flags and signs with messages opposing a war with Venezuela. It started downtown at Rosa Parks Circle before continuing in a march down the streets. The protesters were closely followed by Grand Rapids police throughout their procession downtown. Once it ended, we spoke with an organizer of this protest, Jessica Plitzka. She says she was actually in Venezuela just 3 weeks ago and saw Maduro in person. Among her messages, she wants the U.S. to free Maduro. She also believes the U.S. attacks are in order to secure access to the country's deep oil reserves.
We have to apply pressure at all points that we can. This is not just in a foreign issue, it's our tax dollars that are also being used to commit these war crimes. It is also the duty of us, the people, to stand against the Trump regime, the Trump administration that are committing crimes both here in the U.S. and against people in Venezuela.
Now, in the background of this interview, you could see that police car. And now right here, we're showing you video we have. Immediately after the interview finished, Plitzka was arrested by 2 Grand Rapids police officers. You can see it in the video, and an officer tells Plitzka that she is being arrested for obstructing a roadway and failure to obey a lawful command from a police officer. You can see as she's taken away in that car, she was issuing a number of messages about wanting the U.S. to free Maduro. But again, she was taken away by police officers there, and you can see in this video, officers were closely following this procession in downtown Grand Rapids. We have reached out to GRPD for more information about the arrest, but we have not heard back so far.
That seems to me to be an abridgment of her freedom of speech, an abridgment of her right to peaceably assemble, an abridgment of her right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Does not it seem that way? Now, the Grand Rapids, WZZM, Channel 13, they actually did some follow-up with her because she was in jail for 3 hours. This is just harassment. She is not a threat to society. She is not a danger. This could have been a citation because the protest was over. The dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of people that protested, this was the one arrest. The one person who had some leadership, she was holding a megaphone, and WZZM actually talked to her after her arrest.
He says protesters getting arrested is not new in Grand Rapids. just moments after an interview with 13 on Your Side.
And as soon as the light to the camera shut off, 2 police officers came up behind me and said, "Put your hands on your head, you're under arrest." I am not resisting arrest.
No, you're not resisting arrest.
I'm not resisting arrest. I'm going peacefully.
Organizer Jessica Plichta was arrested for failure to obey a lawful order of a police officer after marching in the streets of Grand Rapids against U.S. actions in Venezuela on January 3rd.
They had me bend over the police car, they patted me down, removed my belongings, and then they put me back in the police car without buckling my seatbelt and drove me to Kent County Sheriff's Office, I believe. The jail.
Plichta says she was held there for 3 hours before being released.
I wasn't surprised, just disappointed.
She says she chose to remain silent after her arrest, but doesn't understand why GRPD has a large presence at these protests.
Why is Grand Rapids seem to be the only city in Michigan where protesting is illegal? I believe it's our sacred right in this country to protest.
We reached out to the city of Grand Rapids to ask what the penalties are for these charges and if it's city policy to arrest people who violate those city charges. A spokesperson for the city sent us back several city code sections that apply to pedestrians walking or standing in the roadway and policy on failure to obey a lawful command. In a statement to 13 on Your Side, a spokesperson for the Grand Rapids Police Department says protesters refused over 25 announcements from a cruiser's PA system to get off the road, and quote, patrol officers consulted with their sergeant and the watch commander, who informed the officers that if the individuals could be located, they were subject to arrest. The adult woman who was arrested was positively identified by officers, and the lawful arrest was made. Plichta says this shouldn't deter people from taking to the streets.
People will claim that a street march is horrible, but you know what? A street march, a peaceful march in the streets, is far more peaceful when the world is escalating violence at a drastic rate.
She says she is awaiting notification of her official charges.
Failure to obey a lawful command is a disorderly conduct offense in Grand Rapids, which could land Plichta 90 days in jail and or $500 fine if convicted. Callie Lichter, 13 on Your Side.
Look, we are coming very rapidly to a situation that will be an inflection point in America. It'll be the moment when some people demur, some people cower, some people hide, some people go quiet, and others raise the volume of their voice, raise the increase in their activism and organizing, who will double down on their speech, not cower. And I would hope, I can tell you which camp I'm in. I think it's obvious what camp I'm in. But I would hope you would also join me in that camp that will raise their voices, that will get involved. If you have not yet joined a protest, you need to join a protest. Fascism will only win if the populace lays down. So don't lay down. Get involved. I know maybe you haven't yet because, this is just Trump being Trump. This is not just Trump being Trump anymore. His fascism is being backed by these uniformed armed agents of the state who are arresting someone for speaking out against the fascist dear leader. That is what's taking place in America right now, in municipalities all over the country, including here in Washington, D.C. I've interviewed once, Brittany Page, who was filling in for me, interviewed a second time, Will Kelly, who now is being harassed by social media companies, kicking him off of Instagram time after time after time after he was arrested by the Secret Service for incitement of violence. We've all watched the video. He did nothing. He was talking to someone, speaking, using his freedom of speech to peaceably assemble and redress his government of his grievances. First Amendment. Big rainbow, the more you know, ding, 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 ding. But we have a ruling party right now that does not respect the Constitution. The same Constitution that saw fit to put them in power, now, not of any use. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. We can have it in the comments below the video. Let's have it in the comments below the video. Share this video with someone who needs the information, someone who needs to be fired up, someone who might not just be paying attention to the news. I'm going to go there. I'm going to end it there. I am as pardoned January 6th insurrectionists are marching on the Capitol in the next 23 minutes. Here I am. still talking about democracy, preserving democracy, respecting our Constitution, honoring the oath to that same Constitution that I took when I joined the United States Marine Corps and served on active duty for many years. My oath doesn't end, and I hope if you took one, it doesn't end as well.
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments.
I don't even know, honestly, what you're talking about right now.
I've said many times in many videos over many days over the course of Donald Trump's second term that Stephen Miller is the shadow president of the United States. And not really Donald Trump. Donald Trump's the mouthpiece. Stephen Miller is the one who puts things into action. Stephen Miller actually runs the Department of Justice and the Secretary of State's position. He runs those. They answer to him. And it's arguable that maybe he actually has an outsized role in the Department of Defense that we didn't know about. But he certainly isn't just a domestic policy advisor for Donald Trump. And yesterday, in two different occasions, he was asked about what's taking place in Venezuela, who's actually in charge. Donald Trump pointed to the morons behind him and said, we're going to be running Venezuela. We're running it. These people are going to help me run it. The coward who can't even run his own country purports to run another an ocean away. Fantastic. Steve Miller last night was cornered by journalists on the lawn of the White House, asked by Caitlin Collins about exactly what is your role? What exactly is your day-to-day? And he laughs uncomfortably and then tries to answer with not an answer. And then she finally bears down and gets the follow-up. No. But what are you doing day-to-day? His answer is alarming, mainly by what he doesn't say, but it is his demeanor, the cowardice that oozes from every worthless pore on his face. Watch this, and then we're going to go to him on Jake Tapper, which is even more bananas. It's a little longer clip than I normally play, but we'll put the timer up. You can follow along. We are in the worst possible timeline containing the absolute worst possible outcomes that could have been perceived of when Donald Trump took office on January 20th. Watch this on the White House grounds with Caitlin Collins and Stephen Miller.
Stephen, you were a part of that group, the select group that the president said is his staff that is running Venezuela. What exactly are your day-to-day responsibilities?
The President of the United States has asked Secretary Rubio, who also happens to be his national security advisor, to directly, of course, under the president's close guidance and direction, to be the lead on this process. But obviously, there's many other elements involved. You have energy policy, treasury policy, financial policy, military policy. So it's a big team and group of people, and everybody's working great and closely together, again, under President Trump's leadership.
But what are you specifically doing? What are you specifically doing?
I make a habit of trying not to talk too much about myself. I'm just happy to serve on this incredible team on behalf of President Trump.
You don't like talking about yourself. You don't want to center this on you. You're just happy to serve this noble, patriotic team. Is that right, Stephen Miller? Is that why you cannot stop yourself from running to any fucking camera that's on to talk into whatever microphone you can get your stupid mouth on? Is that why? Because this isn't about me. I'm just a patriot helping Donald Trump. Yeah. The fact that you didn't answer the question says everything we need to know. And you attempted to do this with Jake Tapper less successfully than you did with Caitlin Collins. Again, this is all about who's in charge, using the military to secure our interests in Venezuela. Donald Trump has said time and time again that this is about oil. This isn't about security for the United States. This isn't about drug trafficking. If it were, he would not have pardoned a notorious drug trafficker, the former president of Honduras. Would not have done it if it was about that. But it's not. And we know it's not, because we've witnessed Donald Trump now for 10 years. We've heard from the people he's put around him for 10 years. We know what his motivations are. It's money, it's power, it's for people to respect him as the king that he wants to be. And Stephen Miller really just bears all of this to be true in this exchange with Jake Tapper, that again is a little longer than I normally play. As with all clips, there will be a little timer up at the top. You can skip ahead and skip through, but there are some important things that we need to talk about after you watch this.
The president was very quick to say that the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, opposition leader Machado in Venezuela, doesn't have the support in Venezuela to become the next president or the interim leader. And I wonder where he got that from, given that basically her cutout, Gonzalez, won the election last year, 2 years ago, overwhelmingly, 70% of the vote or something like that. Why does the president think that Machado should not be the next leader? Why does he think she's weak?
First of all of Venezuela experts agree, that it would be absurd and preposterous for us to suddenly fly her into the country and to put her in charge. And the military would follow her and the security forces would follow her. This is not a serious, it's not even a serious question.
So should there be an election?
Let me, if you give me the floor for 30 seconds, let me tell you what we are doing here, Jake. The United States, this is sort of foundational. The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf of the United States.
Sovereign countries shouldn't be able to do what they want to do.
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources. The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know,
engaging these
honestly,
vast
what you're talking
reparation
about right
schemes.
now.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea, and by the way, you do, I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping to be better than that this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election.
I
asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. That's what I asked. I said, why was the president so quick to dismiss Machado? You answered that question. And then I said,
the objective, Jake, is security and stability for the people of Venezuela. With our help and leadership, that country will become more prosperous than it has ever been in its whole history. Venezuelans
but the woman
will be
running Venezuela right now is part of the Maduro regime.
There will be conversations, Jake, about all of these guideposts along the way. The reason why I was giving you that speech, which I know you didn't want to hear, is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame. This neoliberal frame that the United States' job is to go around the world and demanding immediate elections to be held everywhere, immediately, all the time, right away. To create these vacuums.
That's not what I think, but you invaded the country. We went into the country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm saying,
we're not going to let.
So is the U.S. going to have new elections?
Jake, is that we're not going to let Tin Pot communist dictators send rapists into our country, send drugs into our country, send weapons into our country.
Okay.
And we're not going to let a country fall into the hands of our adversaries. The future of Venezuela, working with America, is going to be so bright and so incredible and so positive, and we'll have a conversation about everything that you raised. But the priority right now, as the president has been made clear, is a judicious, thoughtful, careful transition process to secure a great future for Venezuela and to secure a great future for America.
All right.
So let's just take a moment and just acknowledge, Jake, that what we've witnessed under President Trump's leadership this last week is one of the greatest foreign policy and military victories this country has ever had.
Stephen Miller, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Stephen Miller was so unprepared for the most obvious question that he would be faced with that he just started rambling about World War II, and it was befuddling. I mean, when Jake Tapper says, I don't even honestly know what you're talking about right now, Stephen Miller, he's speaking for the rest of us. Hopefully this is some kind of a wake-up call for Jake Tapper to start doing his fucking job. That would be fantastic. Maybe now all the money has run out from him ringing alarm bells about the cognition of Joe Biden, and can start asking those same questions about Donald Trump, whose mental illness now puts us all at risk. What do you think? Comment below. Let's have a conversation in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs the information, who maybe doesn't watch CNN. Thankfully doesn't watch CNN. This is why my job is sometimes not great.
Did you at any point offer to give him the Nobel Peace Prize? Did that actually happen? I had read that somewhere. I wasn't sure if it was true.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but I certainly would love to be able to personally tell him.
Maria Corina Machado is the opposition leader, the opposition political force in Venezuela, who received the Nobel Prize this last year, just a few months ago. Or maybe it was this year. It was this year. This last Nobel Prize was awarded to her. And she said she shares it with Donald Trump. And now she's being iced out, boxed out of leadership in the country that her stand-in, Gonzalez, is now in place. She left the country when she went to go receive her Nobel Prize, never returned. And she is really proving to be, I mean, I kind of want to shit on her because she says some really stupid things in this Hannity clip I'm going to play for you. But we need to understand it from the basis of what she's looking out for. She's not looking out for the interests of the United States. She's looking out for the interests of what she sees as Venezuela. She's not working to make Donald Trump more powerful. She's not working to make the United States more powerful. She's looking out for Venezuela. I think that's the most charitable way to look at this. But she still is demonizing socialism like it's a danger to the United States in this clip. And she is bending over backwards to offer Donald Trump her Nobel Prize because that is why she's not currently in power. And she knows it. They believe in the White House that she should have denied the honor, rejected the award, and said, no, I can't have this. This is Donald Trump's Peace Prize. And that's not just me saying that. The Washington Post has an inside White House official who has said as much. Here's the headline from the Washington Post. U.S. plan to run Venezuela clouded in confusion in Washington and Caracas. The vision for administering Venezuela in the weeks and months ahead appears uncertain and stubbornly complex. That's the headline. And there's a 3-paragraph part of this where they talk about the fact that she would be president right now of Venezuela if only she had rejected the Nobel Prize and said it was Donald Trump's. This is it. 2 people close to the White House said the president's lack of interest in boosting Machado, despite her recent effort to flatter Donald Trump, stemmed from her decision to accept the Nobel Peace Prize, an award the president has openly coveted. Although Machado ultimately said she was dedicating the award to Trump, her acceptance of the prize was an ultimate sin, said one of the people. Quote, if she had turned it down and said, I can't accept it because it's Donald Trump's, she'd be the president of Venezuela today, this person said. How historically weak and cowardly is Donald Trump? How historically insecure is this mentally ill maniac that we have as president of the United States? Here is Maria Corina Machado on Hannity last night, where he made sure to get into the business of the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, it's so important. Did you offer it to Donald Trump? And ultimately, she cowers. She bends the knee to King Donald and says, we can have it together. I will give it to him. As soon as I see him again, it's his. Please make me president. Watch this.
You stayed in the country, but you were hiding within your country until you went to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. And I want you to tell us, you never went back at that point. Did you not go back because you feared for your life? And tell us, I mean, it's not very usual that people will dedicate the Nobel Peace Prize to the leader of a different country and say publicly, he deserves this more than I do. But you did that.
Let me be very clear. as soon as I learned that we had been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, I dedicated to President Trump because I believed at that point that he deserved it. And a lot of people, most people said it was impossible to achieve what he has just done on Saturday, January 3rd. So if I believed he deserved it on October, imagine now. I think he has proven to the world what he means. I mean, January 3rd will go down in history as the day justice defeated a tyranny. It's a milestone, and it's not only huge for the Venezuelan people and our future, I think it's a huge step for humanity, for freedom and human dignity.
Have you spoken with President Trump since then?
I spoke with President Trump on October 10th, the same day the prize was announced. Not since then, but I do want to say today, on behalf of the Venezuelan people, how grateful we are for his courageous vision, the actions, historical actions he has taken against this narco-terrorist regime to start dismantling this structure and bringing Maduro to justice, which means that 30 million Venezuelans are now closer to freedom, but also that the United States of America is a safer country nowadays.
Right. Did you at any point offer to give him the Nobel Peace Prize? Did that actually happen? I had read that somewhere. I wasn't sure if it was true.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but I certainly would love to be able to personally tell him that we believe the Venezuelan people, because this is a prize of the Venezuelan people, certainly want to give it to him and share it with him. What he has done, as I said, is historic. It's a huge step towards a democratic transition. And I want to convey this to the American people, Sean. A free Venezuela means, first, a security ally, dismantling the criminal hub of the Americas and turning it into a security shield. You know, the strongest ally to dismantle all these criminal structures that have made, so much damage and harm to our people and to the American people as well. Secondly, we will turn Venezuela into the energy hub of the Americas. We will bring rule of law. We will open markets. We will give security to foreign investment. And third, we will bring millions of Venezuelans that have been forced to flee our country back home, to build a strong nation, prosperous nations, open society. We will leave behind all the destruction this socialist regime, criminal regime has brought to our people and turn Venezuela into the main ally of the United States in Latin America.
In what normal person's mind would it be appropriate to expect the Nobel Prize awarded to someone else to be given to Donald Trump, the warmonger? The man who's dropping bombs on Nigeria and Syria and Iran and facilitating a genocide against the Palestinian people. Venezuela is next in the sights. Colombia is next in the sights. Cuba is next in the sights. Greenland, he's frothing at the mouth for Greenland. Canada to be the 51st. Yesterday I did a video where I listed all of the new conquests that are on the horizon, the new military conflicts from the Peace Prize president. And yet these people debase themselves. They have no vitality in their integrity. They have no self-respect, no honor, no decency. Because Donald Trump's lack of all of that is infectious, apparently. What do you think? I would love to look, I try to bring some nuance here because I think that this is disgraceful, but I kind of understand that her interests aren't in protecting what is best for America because after all, she's not American. I get that. What do you think, though?
What they're saying is actually true. Anybody in the military will tell you you're not allowed to obey and you must disobey unlawful orders. But they're implying that there's some unlawful orders out on the horizon or that there's been unlawful orders.
Donald Trump is a convicted felon, a credibly accused abuser of children, an insurrectionist who attempted to overthrow the United States government on January 6th, 2021, 5 years ago today, which is what makes this particular topic so egregious. I'm going to be talking about Navy SEAL Jocko Willink, the thumb with a fucking face painted on it. I've talked about that. Look, I served in the Marine Corps. I wasn't a special operator like this dipshit was. But I've talked about this a number of times, about leadership. You've got followers and you have leaders. Jocko Willink isn't a leader. He's a follower. He also doesn't have his head screwed on straight relative, or maybe his bolts screwed in tightly enough. Frankenstein's monster over here. Does not have a clear-eyed view about what patriotism is, about what loyalty is, about what his oath to the Constitution of the United States was and continues to be. Apparently, he's forgotten his oath because he was on Sean Hannity's show last night talking about Mark Kelly being punished by the fascist skinny-legged dipshit Pete Hegseth for the video that we'll play for you again at the end of this. Where he admonished usually, or for the most part, I believe, the generals and the higher ranking individuals in the United States military to not follow unlawful orders. And now he's being punished for it. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, tweeted this meandering idiocy yesterday. I'm just going to read a couple of little paragraphs here from it just to give you a flavor. And then I'm going to cut to this interview with Hannity and Jocko Willink, where he calls it a dishonest video and attempts to, I guess, provide aid and comfort to domestic terrorists, violators of the Constitution, traitors to the Republic. Pete Hegseth wrote this. Therefore, among other things, therefore, in response to Senator Kelly's seditious statements, remember, admonishing people to only follow lawful orders. Therefore, in response to Senator Kelly's seditious statements and his pattern of reckless misconduct, the Department of War is taking administrative action against Captain Mark E. Kelly, United States Navy retired. The department has initiated retirement grade determination proceedings under 10 U.S. Code subsection 1370F with reduction in his retired pay. They would send administrative proceedings. He also calls it reckless misconduct. Captain Kelly's status as a sitting United States senator does not exempt him from accountability, and further violations could result in further action. A threat to Senator Kelly. Combat fighter pilot, astronaut, United States senator, patriot. So this is what's taking place right now. And of course, Sean Hannity went to an expert in legal law, military law. He goes to Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL turned podcaster, Jocko Willink, where this particular exchange took place.
Now, remember, when a group of Democrats released a video telling members of the military and the intel community that they should disobey unspecified orders from the commander-in-chief. One of those senators in that video was Navy veteran Mark Kelly of Arizona. The Department of War launched an investigation into Kelly over what many view and have called seditious behavior. And now the Secretary of the Navy is looking at whether Kelly should be demoted in rank or have his pension payments reduced. Here with reaction, retired U.S. Navy SEAL officer, the one and only Jocko Willink is with us. He's a real hero. Sir, welcome back. Good to have you. How are you?
Doing great, Sean. Thanks for having me.
All right, reaction.
Yeah, I think that, Senator Kelly's a guy that served with distinction. I don't know what he's thinking in this particular scenario. I know that video, I don't think it was aimed at the troops. If it was aimed at the troops, it certainly didn't land. I think it was a video that was made to create a reaction as a political statement. And the reaction that they're getting is Senator Kelly is now facing a letter of censure and a threat to his retirement and his rank and his pay. So I think it's an escalating conflict. And if I were Senator Kelly, I think I would try and de-escalate if I were involved. I know that would hurt the ego because you think if you back down, you're hurting your ego, or you're exposing yourself. But I think it's important to remember that divisiveness does not help a team win, and it certainly does not help America win. And he's not gaining any influence in the military with these types of behavior. So hopefully they can find a more constructive way to communicate.
Well, they said in that video they have not only a right, but a duty to not listen to, quote, an unlawful order that was never defined by them. How does that help the military in terms of the chain of command? That sounds to me like they're telling the military, don't listen to your commander-in-chief, without mentioning any specifics.
Yeah, you're right. It implies that there is some sort of unlawful order out there. What they're saying is actually true. Anybody in the military will tell you you're not allowed to obey and you must disobey unlawful orders. But they're implying that there's some unlawful orders out on the horizon, or that there's been unlawful orders without identifying any of them. So yeah, that undermines the chain of command, and it's not healthy. And I think anyone that's in the military knows and understands that. And that's why I think it's a dishonest video. And I think it's just meant as a political statement.
Dishonest video? How is it dishonest? How is it dishonest to say, follow legal orders, refuse unlawful orders? Just because he didn't list a bunch of unlawful orders does not make it dishonest. And the fact that you are working in service to a fascist, a convict, someone who attempted to overthrow the United States government, leads me to believe either you're fucking stupid or you're a fascist yourself. You love to follow orders so much that you can't step outside of yourself to think and be a leader. This, let's remind you, is what was dishonest in the mind, what's left, the empty brain, the maybe overly concussed brain of Jocko Willink. This was what was dishonest.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
So look, I'll let you be the judge on whether that was dishonest. I think I understand that we have a clear thinking audience of people who actually love the country and aren't bound by oath to fascism. They're bound by oath of love of country, of patriotism for our great republic that we hold so fondly. And many of you have actually sworn an oath to the Constitution to support and defend this document and its principles against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Because at this point in American history, our president is that very domestic threat. And you got Jocko Willink here, who apparently believes he was on a domestic terrorist outfit, the Navy SEALs, but he wasn't. He's defending the actions of a domestic terrorist, Donald Trump, of an international terrorist, Donald Trump, because he is not a leader. He is a follower and not of men, but of mice. He is a follower of weaklings. He's a follower of broken, psychically broken, cognitively broken, morally broken, ethically broken terrorists like Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, going on Fox fucking News to talk to weakling coward who never served, Sean Hannity, to malign the service of someone who did serve valiantly, bravely, courageously, selflessly. You, Jocko, should be ashamed of yourself. I hope the checks are really big, brother. I hope you're being paid handsomely for your treason. Conceptual treason, not literal treason. I don't throw that word around as flippantly as some dipshits, but you're certainly a traitor to decency. What do you think out there? I invite you to this conversation. We can have it in the comments below.
I would leave this with you to go on into your day and into the future, understanding our history, understanding the threats that are posed by Donald Trump and the armed, violent, insurrectionist mob that attempted to alter the course of American history on that day. 5 years ago, January 6, 2021, was the insurrection against the United States, an attack on the country, but specifically an attack on the United States Capitol. Right now, I am just within the borders of a fence that says police line do not cross, and they've allowed just a few people. Couldn't set up a tripod. There was security enforced because of the 5-year remembrance of the attack on our country. Oddly enough, Republicans used to feel the same way we feel about what took place on that day. The violent insurrection, the attack on the country, the attempt to overthrow the United States government by way of overturning a free and fair settled American election. I got a few things I want to say here, but first I want to start with this to demonstrate that they did indeed believe the same thing that I'm saying right now. This is a clip from January 7th, just the day after the insurrection. Greg Gutfeld, loyal Trumpian now, but at the time, he had this to say, and I want you to tune in to some of the words that are so laughable, hearing them now from them.
Let's get Greg's thoughts before that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Jesse on this. Vandalism and looting, whether it's in D.C. or Portland, Soho, Kenosha, Minneapolis, Seattle, it's all bad, no matter who's doing it. So we must remain consistent. That's what makes us different from the rest. We don't play favorites with mobs. The other side does, but we don't. It's hard for me personally because I was outraged over violence every single day this summer. I saw my neighborhood trashed. Still, I condemn this equally because we aren't them. We are better than them. To this point, I heard a pundit say that even Republicans are outraged by this behavior. Duh. Republicans are always outraged by bad behavior because they consistently embrace law and order and condemn the destruction of private and public property. I do believe the Capitol is a sacred place. I also believe that the guy who invested his life savings in a small business, to him, that was a sacred place too. So it's consistency. By pointing out Republicans or non-liberals like me who are equally outraged by this behavior, what you're doing is you're pointing out also the inconsistency, right? The lack of Democrats who weren't doing this when our cities were in flame. That pisses me off. But what pisses me off is what happened yesterday. We're supposed to be the gate. The non-left, the Republicans, the libertarians, the conservatives, we're supposed to be the gate against the barbarians. And yesterday, we looked like the barbarians. And to Jesse's point, it doesn't help anybody, but you will not see Republicans bailing out those who were arrested. See, that is a vital contrast, and Americans know this. So Americans do not need lectures from hypocrites in hair and makeup who pick and choose their favorite protesters, right? So I'm glad that the Democrats are finally outraged by this disgusting behavior. Join the club. I've been there for a year. I do not play favorites with mobs.
You heard him, right? Republicans must remain consistent because that's what makes them different than us. They don't play favorites with mobs. He condemns what took place here just the day before he said those words because he isn't a Democrat. He's better than us. He's heard pundits say that Republicans are outraged by this behavior. Duh. Republicans are always outraged by bad behavior because they consistently, he says, embrace law and order, condemn the destruction of private and public property. I do believe, Greg Gutfeld said, that the United States Capitol is sacred. I do believe that. I believed that on January 6, 2021. I still believe that. Greg, what happened to you, brother? But what pisses Greg off the most is that Republicans are supposed to be the gate, the non-left. The Republicans, the libertarians, the conservatives, they're supposed to be the gate against the barbarians, he said. And now he's simping for Donald Trump on Fox News. The coward, the weakling, like the rest of the Republican Party, like the rest of the Trump cult that worship the dear leader. Last thing on what he said, you won't see Republicans, Greg Gutfeld said, bailing out those who were arrested. I guess except for the 1,500 violent traitors to the Republic that attempted to overthrow the democracy here. He won't be bailing out except for the pardons, right? If Republicans aren't going to listen to Greg Gutfeld, maybe they'll listen to the late Charlie Kirk, who had so many things to say in agreement with Mitch McConnell at the time. Why not just leave it to Charlie Kirk to say what he said?
So Mitch McConnell said that we are not going to tolerate criminal behavior. I completely and totally agree. I think that all the people that came into Congress today that broke the law, they should be held to the highest level of criminal prosecution.
All the people that broke into this building, that attempted to overthrow the United States government, they should be held accountable, said Charlie Kirk. They should be held to the highest level of criminal prosecution. Many of them were, and then that was erased through a presidential pardon by our traitor president, Donald Trump. Amazing how time changes the way they think. How listening to Donald Trump and following the marching orders from our credibly accused rapist of children president, our 34 felony convicted president, it changes everything, right? Let's not forget, please let us remember what Donald Trump did the day, hours after the insurrection began. He was forced by staffers, cajoled, influenced, pressured by staffers to make a statement. Now, if January 6th wasn't a violent event, if it was a tourist event, if it was a happy family reunion, like Michelle Bachmann said, why would Donald Trump need to come out and calm the mob? Why would Donald Trump need to come out and say, go home, I feel for you, you're so special, go home?
Good chase? Yep. When you're ready, sir. Yep, I'll be right behind you. You tell me when? When you're ready, sir. Who's behind me? Okay. He's gone around. Clear. We're all clear now.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had a election. Let me say. I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
Why would he need to say go home and go home in peace if it wasn't a violent attempt to overthrow the United States government? At his behest, at his incitement, at his promotion, at his encouragement. I'm going to leave you with this on this day. Look, I moved to Washington, D.C. in large measure in 2021 because of what took place here. I wanted to be on the ground, able to do things like this in spaces like this. And I'm going to leave you with what Jamie Raskin said today in remembrance of this hallowed ground and the attack on the Capitol. And he reminds you, and I hope that you remember, that we're still in the fight. We're still under threat from these people who now are in the most hallowed, sacred, important jobs within the Department of Justice, put there by Donald Trump himself.
They pose a serious threat to public safety. As we show in a report released by House Judiciary Dems this week, at least 33 pardoned insurrectionists have since committed additional crimes since January 6th, including child sexual assault, terroristic threats, domestic violence, and conspiracy to murder FBI agents. And yet, Trump indiscriminately pardoned all of them. When you reward and normalize criminal behavior, of course, you invite more of it. And the president didn't just free his rioters for doing his dirty work, he punished law enforcement for doing their jobs, purging hundreds of career FBI agents and prosecutors just because they worked on J6. He installed actual participants in the attack in the Department of Justice itself. The new U.S. pardon attorney, Ed Martin, tweeted from the Capitol grounds on this day 5 years ago and described the mayhem as Mardi Gras in D.C. His senior counselor at the Department of Justice, Jared Wise, is another J6 defendant captured on body camera footage yelling, "Kill him," 5 different times as police were being attacked right next to him. These leaders at the Department of Justice today have never once regretted their participation in this nightmare. With election deniers and J6 conspiracists Pam Bondi and Kash Patel at the top of the DOJ, it's like the Joker and the Riddler and the Penguin have taken over Gotham City. So I close with the thought that it is still January 6th in America, and it will be until the forces of strong, nonviolent democracy prevail. We are still in the fight of our lives, my friends.
At least 30 insurrectionists have gone on to break further laws, including assault, including attempted murder, including child sexual abuse. I guess all things Donald Trump is super, super fond of. So I would leave this with you to go on into your day and into the future, understanding our history, understanding the threats that are posed by Donald Trump and the armed, violent, insurrectionist mob that attempted to alter the course of American history on that day. We are still in the fight of our lives.